have the story about police showing up at Justin Bieber's house. Let's go to it now.
In and out of the house.
Justin Bieber's Southern California mansion was surrounded by law enforcement serving a felony search warrant, all tied to an egg vandalism incident at his neighbor's house.
Mr. Bieber was present, and he was not arrested nor exonerated at this time.
The 19-year-old singing sensation is accused of throwing eggs at the neighbor's home last Thursday evening, which TMZ says was captured on this cell phone video.
I see you. I got another one for you, actually. Yeah, come right over here, you call the cops.
Deputies say the damage estimate is roughly $20,000. That's what makes this a felony case.
I get that it was done with eggs, which makes you feel that it's a lower level crime, but a felony crime is a felony crime no matter how you commit it.
While looking for surveillance video and other evidence, deputies also arrested another person on a narcotics violation.
He was staying in a bedroom when we came there, and that's where the drugs were located in plain view. I believe it's Xanax and ecstasy.
This isn't the first time Bieber has been in trouble with his neighbors. They've complained about him speeding through the community at more than 100 miles per hour.
Even that I love him, it's very, very noisy for us.
Last March, one neighbor also accused the singer of spitting in his face and threatening his life.
So it looks like the neighbor wars continue for Justin Bieber out there in California. We've got with us now legal correspondent and columnist attorney John Burns, and he's got more on the Bieber story. Hi, John.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Good to see you.
This is just crazy when we saw this happen yesterday. We were watching the live pictures and the police, the helicopter, and you know, there were like half a dozen police cars outside his home, and we're like, what is going on there?
It's crazy. It just seems somewhat excessive to have so many police coming, and they came with the battering ram, amongst other things, to basically serve a search warrant on Justin Bieber in connection with basically an egging on his neighbor's house. But obviously, his neighbor is claiming that pretty serious damage was made, about $20,000 in damage. So they're taking it pretty seriously, clearly.
So what kind of damage are we talking about? What did the eggs do to the house exactly?
I guess there were broken windows and other types of damage. And obviously, in Calabasas, houses are pretty expensive. So I can imagine when you have multi-million-dollar houses, a couple eggs could cause some damage. So obviously, clearly, the neighbor's claiming $20,000.
Wow. And now here's the thing. When Justin allegedly was egging the neighbors were out on their balcony, I think.
Right.
And then there's some cell phone video or something that's surfacing. What do you know about that?
Yeah, not much. The video is purportedly being, you know, TMZ has evidence that there is a video, but most people have not seen that video yet. But obviously, that would be very damaging evidence for Justin Bieber if he's implicated in the video.
This is the neighbor who says that he actually taped him doing this.
Exactly. The neighbor claims that he taped Justin Bieber egging his house from his second-floor balcony, and then he has video footage of that.
So, okay, so say if he's charged, because I don't think he's been charged yet, would this be a misdemeanor, felony? What kind of charges?
It could be either. It determines right now it's a felony. Search warrant was executed based upon the damage amount, because he's claiming $20,000 in damages, which is pretty significant. But I would highly doubt that he would be charged with a felony for egging someone's house. That would be very, very far-fetched.
Do you think that the police presence was excessive?
Yes, it was incredibly excessive. I mean,
well, why did they bring the battering ram? Did they think that they were going to need to use that?
12 detectives, 8 police cars. It almost looked like they were making a huge drug bust, but they obviously did take one of his friends into custody for drugs, so there were evidence of drugs on the premises, so that's very serious.
Talk about that. That was a rapper friend of his?
Yeah, so a rapper named Lil Za or Lil Ra, they've been friends for a very, very long time, and he was actually in the house, and it's reported that narcotics were found close to this young man, and they took him into custody for narcotics possession.
Police thought it was cocaine initially, not so sure now.
Exactly, not so sure. Nothing's been verified with respect to what type of drug it was.
You know, this neighborhood, this is an exclusive enclave, right? I mean, it's a gated community, and all the homes are like million-dollar mansions, like what you saw in the video of Bieber's home. And from what I understand, he has had some run-ins with his neighbors before, because remember we were reporting about him speeding around the neighborhood, and then they were, you know, throwing the loud parties, and so it sounds like there's some bad blood here in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. They have a sordid history of different disagreements and disputes, just like you mentioned. Definitely. So I think it could just be another run-in that's going awry with his neighbors. So hopefully, I mean, for Justin Bieber's sake, you hope it gets resolved amicably.
What is going to be the next step in this case?
So police raided the house with 12 detectives yesterday trying to find any evidence linking Justin Bieber to the egging. And I'm not really sure what type of evidence you would find. Would you find a big refrigerator full of eggs, or would you find empty shells? I'm not really sure what kind of evidence they're going to find, but ultimately if they find evidence, then they would pursue charges at that point.
Maybe they were hoping that he had his own video surveillance cameras on the exterior of his own home that could be used to capture
very good
whatever
point. Very good point too. So we'll see how this case unfolds.
All right, let's move on. We've got Chris Brown, who was in court right here in D.C. last week.
Right. So we all know he was basically charged with misdemeanor assault in connection with the melee or altercation that took place outside the W Hotel back in October. So he was in court last week, and the prosecution offered him a plea deal where they offered that he would plead down to a simple assault instead of the higher charge of misdemeanor. But Chris rejected that charge. He pronounced his innocence and said he's prepared to move forward with trial. So he's slated to be back in court in D.C. on February 20th. And
he has this high-profile lawyer, Mark Garagos, and I understand it was Garagos that actually recommended that he plead that way, right?
Absolutely. So they're still, and Garagos is trying to get the surveillance tape from the W Hotel and from the streets adjacent to that hotel to kind of verify and confirm that he had no involvement in the incident.
And isn't he already dealing with some previous charges that were connected to Rihanna?
Absolutely. Still on probation from the 2009 assault of then-girlfriend Rihanna. So he's still in the process of engaging in doing community service as a result of that punishment.
So due back in court, was it February?
February 20th here in D.C. And then we'll see at that point. And Garagos is saying that he's ready to move forward with trial in this case.
All right. A-Rod is in the news, and he's fighting those charges.
Yeah, Alex Rodriguez actually filed a federal lawsuit on Monday against Major League Baseball in a last-ditch effort to vacate his year-long drug-related suspension, which is pretty serious. And this comes after a federal arbitrator basically downgraded that sentence from 211 games to 162 games. But nonetheless, I mean, a whole season-long suspension is pretty serious for A-Rod because he makes about $25 million a year.
However, there was an interview done recently where Anthony Bosch, I believe is his name, he is saying that he actually supplied him with these performance-enhancing drugs. How is that going to affect his case? Oh, well, that basically was the end-all, be-all for his case, because Anthony Bosch was the person that owned the Biogenesis lab who was supplying A-Rod with these performance-enhancing drugs. And he actually went on 60 Minutes over the weekend and told Scott Pelley that he was getting paid $12,000 a month by A-Rod to provide him with these drugs.
Sounds like you're saying he doesn't have much of a case.
Well, yeah, so basically the case is pretty much over in terms of the decision by Major League Baseball because they already issued the suspension. Now he's trying to fight that somehow with a lawsuit against Major League Baseball, but I really don't see how it could work out for his benefit, to be quite honest.
Okay, all right, we're going to move on to Kanye West, the primary suspect in a battery investigation.
Yeah, and this is just really, really disturbing. Kim Kardashian was in L.A. yesterday traveling around, and obviously she's always being bombarded with a flock of paparazzi. She was entering an office building, and a gentleman, an 18-year-old unnamed guy at this moment, helped her get into the office building. But as he was helping her in the office building, he simultaneously began ranting and uttering racial slurs and homophobic slurs to the paparazzi. And Kim took offense to that and said that's inappropriate conduct. And then he allegedly turned on her and began making racial comments to her. Kim was very, very shaken by the incident, called Kanye. Kanye came to the scene, confronted this man, and it's reported that he then punched him. Police came. Kanye was no longer on the scene, but the man is claiming that he intends to file charges against Kanye West.
Do we know what he said, what the man said to Kim?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of racial slurs?
He basically called Kim an in-lover. So obviously that's very, very offensive.
Yeah, and there were some other choice words, but that was a big one.
Yeah, and then obviously a number of other things as well.
All right, and then, you know, we're hearing maybe there were some witnesses. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, obviously paparazzi. I mean, there's tons of people wherever Kim goes. There's tons of people, tons of cameras. So I think as this case unfolds, we'll get more and more information about what actually happened.
And wasn't Kanye involved in an incident with a photographer in July where he was scuffling with the photographer as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So he has 2 misdemeanor charges as a result of that incident. He pled not guilty in November, but we're still waiting to see how that case unfolds as well. So Kanye, a battery charge could be very, very significant in terms of his legal run-ins.
Attorney John Burns, thanks so much for stopping by today.
All right, thank you guys very much.
You always have your finger on the pulse of what's going on with celebrity gossip.
Thank you.